Please forgive my tiredness, YouTube. Oh boy. Crawling out of bed. This video, make it quick for you. Just want to talk about sunk costs. I'm sure you've heard that term before. Sunk costs. Sunk costs means when you expense something, say you pay $100 for a new pair of shoes. Sunk costs mean to treat it as something that's already happened, expensed, incurred. It's in the past. Really, that's what it is. It's about putting something in the past. Well, I paid, these shoes suck, but I paid $100 for them. That was in the past. It's over. So a few examples of this and why it's important. A sunk cost. Again, I'm sure you've heard the term. Whether it's economics or maybe some simple theory or math or what have you. There's a couple of research studies, really cool studies shown. In the first one, they took two groups of participants and they sold them Broadway tickets to their local theater. And the first group, they sold the tickets to them at full price. The second group, they sold the tickets to the theater at a discount rate. And they wanted to see what would the attendance be on average from each group. And they showed that the people who paid more for the tickets showed up at a higher percentage than the people who paid less, which makes sense. Because what it means is that these people say, hey, I already paid more for these tickets, they're worth more to me, I'm going to show up. Whereas the people who paid less, they were probably okay skipping out on a couple of events because their cost was low. Alright, that makes sense. This study's interesting. So they took two participant groups and they asked them to imagine a circumstance where you paid for 2 ski lounge resort tickets. You bought 2 trips to the ski lounge only to find out that they are on the same day. They're non-refundable tickets. Ticket A, you paid $50 for. Ticket B, you paid $25 for. They're on the same day. And in this imaginary circumstance, you imagine if you found out you would have a better time, a better experience if you chose the $25 trip. It's the day of the trip. You can only go to A or B. A, you paid $50. B, you paid $25. And you know you would have a better experience if you went to the $25 trip. The majority of participants chose the $50 trip. Even though either way, they spent $75 and that was irreversible. Most of them chose to go $50. They averted the pleasure because of the feeling of a sunk cost. Oh wow, I already paid $50 for this trip. That trip's only worth $25. I need to go to the $50 one. And it's also that feeling of missing out. Well, if I go to the $50 one, then I only miss out on a $25 experience. If I go to the $25 one, then I only miss out on a $50 experience. It's a backwards way of thinking that will hurt you as a business prospect. Perhaps it can do some good, but an example I was given to my dad. The Sixers, the Philadelphia 76ers basketball, they traded for 2 players this season who have expiring contracts, meaning they are free agents right now. Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. They traded with these guys knowing they would be free agents because they wanted to go all in on the table, try to win a championship this season. They got knocked out of the playoffs, so didn't happen. The question becomes, because both of these players would probably receive the max amount of money. If they paid both of these players the max amount of money, they would start to be really cash strapped. You already have Joel Embiid, their center, being paid a max amount, and then they would probably pay a max amount to Ben Simmons next season. So that's 4 players, 4 starters receiving the max amount of money. You don't have much depth that way. But here's a problem I see, and I was telling this to my dad. The problem I see the problem I worry about the way the team's going to handle the offseason is I worry they're not going to incur the Jimmy Butler and the Tobias Harris trades as a sunk cost. Why? Because especially for Tobias, they gave up a lot. They gave up a good rookie and 4 draft picks. They did get some return, Mike Scott and Boban, yada, yada, yada. They gave up 4 draft picks and a rookie. And by the way, to get on my soapbox real quick, they said the deal was done in a couple of hours. It was done 48 hours before the trade deadline. You're telling me the Clippers wouldn't have taken anything less? That was the maximum or the minimum they were willing to part with. We need 4 draft picks and a good rookie? I'm sorry, I'm still a little upset about that. Anyways, the point is, you already made the trade. Both of them are free agents, which means they could walk. Both of them could walk, sign with different teams, and you can't do anything about it. What I was saying to my father was the Sixers, to ensure their long-term success, need to view these transactions as a sunk cost. They already traded the farm to get Jimmy. They traded the farm to get Tobias. It's out the door, out the window. It's gone. You can't do anything about it. If those players both sign somewhere else, you can't view that as a loss. You have to view it as a zero-sum game. Because you never had them, you never owned them in the first place. You owned a rental, the rental expired. Saying, oh, I didn't get to re-sign the rental is not down here. It's a zero-sum game. The reason why I say it's important they treat it like that is because you ought to evaluate the whole market and say, this is what I think this person's worth, this is what I think this person's worth. If you give Jimmy Butler the max, okay, maybe that's worth it. If you give Tobias the max, maybe, maybe not. He's only 26. He's young. But he certainly, at least from what I've seen, he doesn't have that mindset, the Jimmy Butler mindset, to take over a game. He might. I don't know. Who am I to be a basketball analyst? I'm not going to. I rescind that comment. What instead I want to focus on is the feeling that from what I've seen, they don't treat these as a sunk cost. They still think that they're paying high for this investment. So I guarantee you what they're going to do is they're going to go out of their way to pay both of them, whether it's right or wrong, for the franchise. And by paying both of them, I mean, I'm just saying choose one or the other, or pay somebody else if you think somebody else is worth it. I just fear that they're going to go down a rabbit hole of feeling that they're obligated to keep both of these guys around because they gave up so much. They don't view it as a sunk cost. And that's where I think it can hurt you. Sunk cost. How can you use this in your business? Consider it. Think about it, what that means to you, about letting things go, putting them in the past after the transaction is done. You know, if you tell me, oh, hey, can I borrow $100? I'll give you $5 for the next 20 months. That's not a sunk cost because you're still incurring an expense every month for 20 months. If I told you I'll buy that beanie from you for $100 and you pay it, and then 2 months later you see the same beanie for $5 on the street, you can't see that as a loss. It's already in the past. It's a sunk cost. So think about what this means, how you can use it. It's interesting. I think it can explain relationships too. Why people, like, after being in a relationship for years, stay in the relationship, even if it's not a good relationship for them, because to them it's a sunk cost. It's not a sunk cost. Excuse me. It's not a sunk cost. It's an investment. Oh, I've put 7 years in this relationship. I can't leave now. Gotta view it as a sunk cost. Hey, this is not what I need in my life. I spent 7 years doing this. But it's in the past. I've already traded my time, my energy, my effort, and whatever opportunity cost I missed out on for being with this person. So it's time to move on, leave it in the past, and so forth. Comment what you think. Shout out to mommy. You're going to keep getting shout outs every video. You keep commenting, you're going to keep getting shout outs. That's how it works. Alright, stay smooth.